Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I want to invite everyone to the December 17th, welcome everyone to the December 17th, 2020 Education Compact Quarterly Meeting. This will be the last Education Compact meeting of this term for members of the school board, the city council, and me as mayor. We will, obviously, I look forward to us working together again on the course of the next 4 years as well. But we got to get on the other side of January 1, 2021. Our last meeting was in August, and since then we've continued to work relentlessly to insulate our community from the immense harms caused by the pandemic, the coronavirus, COVID-19, and it's been compounded by the shocking lack of leadership in Washington, D.C. As I stated earlier today on many occasions that the leadership in Washington, D.C. has abdicated their responsibilities to ensure that our children can be in schools and businesses can be opened and we can safely and confidently gather again. But nonetheless, we will continue to lead here in the city and keep our community safe. And I want to thank Mr. Cameras and the leadership at the RPS School Board for what you've done to keep our communities safe, not just our children, but also what you've done to contribute to our families as well in this very, very difficult time. I'm hope to keep tonight's meeting relatively brief. Usually we would use this quarter's Education Compact meeting to discuss legislative priorities for the upcoming General Assembly session. Tonight, though, we are going to focus on current priorities as we continue to battle the effects of COVID-19 and this pandemic. You should have received a meeting agenda for this quarterly meeting. Tonight, obviously, I've begun with opening remarks and the welcome. We will move to updates from my office, the Joint Construction Team, Education and Human Services Committee of City Council. Then we'll hear from the Richmond Public Schools. And also we'll have an updated discussion about the Emergency Child Care Initiative that kicked off at the beginning of this academic year. And we'll close out with any next steps. Moving into the update from the mayor's office, since the last time we convened, my administration has continued to work to offer Richmond families stability in the face of this unfortunate crisis. You all know, with the partnership of Richmond Public Schools and RBHA, we launched an Emergency Child Care Initiative. We'll be hearing from some of our partners tonight on that initiative. We've reopened our Family Crisis Fund, through which we'll be able to administer $1,000 grants to Richmond families before Christmas. We're in the second round of our Richmond Recovers grants to local small businesses. I mentioned that because we have a number of families and children who are obviously impacted by the closure or the potential closure of small businesses. And we've launched a virtual learning project through the Office of Community Wealth building on the work that the ambassadors, those who work with the Office of Community Wealth Building, had already begun with the distribution of desks to RPS students throughout our community. I was lucky enough to join James Davis, who's with us this afternoon, and a number of ambassadors on the distribution of desks. Mr. Cameras has joined me on a couple of occasions as well. And it's just good to get out there and knowing that we're doing everything we can to ensure we meet our students where they are. As always, we continue to walk and chew gum at the same time here in the city of Richmond. And I have been deeply proud to mark the completion of 3 new schools here in the city. Although we cannot be in those facilities today, we are very, very proud that there are 3 new facilities ready to go once we get ourselves out of this pandemic. I'm also very, very proud that I was able to stand with a number of members of the school board to announce the intention for us to begin the planning and design work on a new George Wythe High School in South Richmond as well. A very, very proud moment for all of us to announce that before the end of the year. Now, it is my honor to move into the next phase of our agenda, and that is to speak about talk about the virtual learning project And today with us, we have my friend James Davis. James coordinates OCWB's Community Ambassadors Program and runs the Virtual Learning Project. For an update, he's going to come to us with an update on their work. Real quick, we funded the project through the CARES Act dollars we've received from the federal government, and we're hopeful for an additional federal relief to contribute to this program in 2021. In the meantime, we're working to establish a funded partnership with RRHA. I would say that James Davis has been the tip of the spear for us in ensuring we get deeply into those communities, and it obviously is centered around community engagement, being very, very thorough and intentional about our work. So James will share a little bit more about the work of the VLP. James, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you all for having me on the call today. I really am honored to be here with you all. I really do appreciate you all reaching back into these communities and allowing us a space to operate. So just to get started, for those that don't know, the Ambassador Program is a community-based outreach program where we plan and strategize on how to get resources into the community, how to get individuals who are suffering from lack of exposure exposed to the resources that are around them. So a lot of the ambassadors come directly out of the community. So the Virtual Learning Project, funded by our city, our mayor, is a project that we sat and thought about it one day, like, okay, how can we get into the fight to help? So the ambassadors came together, we planned, we strategized, we came up with an idea. So the ambassadors one day sat down and we said, look, it's something that we have to do to help RPS, to help the community and help the kids. That is, we have to stand up. It is a 100% community-based project. All of the community connectors are on the project, come directly out of RHA. We've hired 72 individuals from RHA. That's 10 connectors and 2 supervisors for each community, for all of the big 6 communities. For just to give you an example, some of the things we've done, we've distributed over 1,300 desks and chairs into children living inside of RHA through a partnership with Office Community Wealth Building and through a partnership with Just See Nonprofit. We've also recently, which is Tuesday, we partnered with RPS's community engagement team, where we just recently got 300 families inside of RHA diapers through my man, Mr. Williams over there at RPS's engagement team. We're working directly with Aaron Brown from RPS's engagement team as well. We have also partnered with Challenge Discovery and Capstone Counseling, because what we're seeing is a lot of mental health needs inside of the community. We're seeing a huge push from parents to ask about how can they get their children mental health treatment and counselors into the community. We're also tracking the data at the same time. So if you look at the graph on the screen, we got 380 families signed up where we're receiving data from them every day by knocking on doors early in the morning, making sure the kids got access to school supplies, making sure the kids don't have any tech issues. If they do, we're connecting directly into RPS's community engagement team and the liaison hubs for help. But also as well, we are working at the same time to help with rental assistance for residents living in RHA. Right now, we have helped with wiping out back rent for thousands of residents living in RHA, because a lot of the kids supposed to go to school every day. But the first thing a lot of the parents were dealing with was, are they going to be evicted? So through CARES Act funds, the Office of Community Wealth Building in the mayor's office, we have been wiping out back rent for COVID-related back rent payments in RHA, which is a wonderful thing. And now the parents can focus a lot more. So they're really excited about this opportunity as well. But all of the community connectors that are on this project are all individuals who are showing up and showing out. It took us to really look at these communities and say, okay, let's give the community an opportunity to solve the issues and the challenges that's going on in the community. They are there, they are at the table, they are engaged. It is really, really a beautiful thing to see, because the community are organically coming up with programs and stuff like that as well. But also we're setting up tutoring hubs in every community. So that's one tutoring hub for every community. And we partner with Walmart to start to get some funds and stuff from Walmart. We're working on it right now to be able to receive receive additional funds to buy supplies and stuff for the community. We got a huge shipment coming in from Walmart with pens, paper, everything you can name, computers and all of that to set up in the, tutoring hubs as well. We also got projector screens. So now that the community members can start to come into these hubs and attend RPS meetings or attend city council meetings and things of that nature to get more involved in the project. I really, 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 really love what we're seeing in our community right now. The communities are stepping up. I thank you all for working with us. I thank you all for your time and efforts. You know, this work has my heart. A lot of you all on the call know this work does have my heart, and a lot of the communities are now bit by this bug. So they're ready. They're ready to do what they can do to help you. But we all know that the community has to stand up and get in the fight as well. You all cannot be as effective as you need to be if we're not doing our part. This is the community saying we're here, we're ready to do our part. We are here to help. So anything you all need, any of the organizations on the call, please reach out to us so we can partner with you all, those that we're not partnered with, to see what we can do to help you all. It's very important that we do so. We also are working on trying to get the health department to come in to do some training around mental health services and stuff like that for community members so that they can start to identify the needs in the community, get the correct training, and then soft pass off to agencies that are standing beside us. So this relationship with Challenge Discovery and Capstone Counseling will be a very, very important relationship for us because of the needs that we're finding. We're working directly with RRHA's tenant council, where the tenant council has allowed us to operate inside of the tenant council houses inside of the community, which is a good thing. Now that's the community helping the community. So 100% of the funds that the mayor's office gave to us is all going back to residents living in RRHA. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but is there anyone on the call that may have some questions about the project? I can also send you all the proposal and stuff that we did for the project as well.
Any questions for James?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Ms.
This is
Burke.
Cheryl Burke speaking. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, Dr. Newbill is on the call, but she's on her telephone and she's been muted. So who's ever directing this, if they can unmute her, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, Mr. Davis, good afternoon. Good to see you. Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you're doing for our children. It's good to hear the full realm of what you're doing. And I'm glad, as you stated, as of Tuesday, Richmond Public Schools is working in partnership, correct?
Yeah, well, Richmond
with Dr. Aaron Brown.
Yeah, so Richmond Public Schools has been in partnership with us the whole time because
okay.
So it's very important that the community engagement team that Richmond Public School has help on the ground for the community members, because it's not a lot of them to do that work. And it's very important that we get in there and be an extra tool that they can use. And the data that we're collecting is getting the feedback in real time. So Dr. Brown can call me up, say, James, we need these flyers put in the community. Bam, we can hit 3,000 houses in 30 minutes. That's just the facts. So we can, right now, we are organizing a way where we can hit 3,000 houses in RHA in 30 minutes. Flyer on every door. And we are definitely thankful for the partnership with RPS. It is a wonderful partnership, and we all are learning. We are learning as we go because this is something that's new.
All right, thank you so very much. This is what my question is, and thank you again for what we've talked before, and I didn't know that you all had gotten into motion per se, so it's good to hear that. And I look forward to the collection of data that you're receiving too as we move forward, because I know we also have persons from Richmond Public Schools, as you well know, walking the community, not as many as you have. And I understand some of our parents have been hired as connectors as well. So thank you for that. I have two questions. Yes, many thanks to our mayor for putting the virtual learning program. That's what you all are calling your program, correct? Virtual learning program. All right, I don't want people to get that confused with Richmond Public Schools virtual learning program. So, because there is a difference. There is a difference with our virtual learning program. You all are there in support of Richmond Public Schools virtual. You're not implementing the virtual learning program, but you are in support of that. So I just want to make sure there isn't confusion per se there. And I think on some realms, some levels, there is a bit of confusion there. So I just want to make sure that I received lots of emails listing Richmond Public Schools virtual learning program. And I was baffled, Richmond Public Schools virtual learning program. And then I thought about a conversation that you and I had earlier, but I just want to make sure that people know that, and our parents understand that as well, because as you well know, when our students speak up before their teachers and their counselors and their administrators, that it's not a level of confusion there. So I'm delighted by what you're doing. I'm glad that I would like to see the data that's in place to know what how long have you all been, when did you all get started exactly? I may have missed that.
Late October.
So they've been on the ground since October?
Well, we've been strategizing since late October. We've been on the ground since a little after November.
Okay, so you haven't been actually in action. You've been training first, and your actual program hasn't taken off the ground maybe less than a month.
Yes, and so here's the thing. We had to literally, we could not announce it to the community until the funds and stuff were secure. So literally we had to interview 150 people during a pandemic safely. We had to get them all background checks done. Like all of these individuals on these projects have had CPS background checks on them done to make sure that we don't have certain individuals. We register with a temp company so that they can handle the payroll and everything. So that was
all right.
This many community members, all from the community during the pandemic. So it took us a little time to do that, but then also training them to get them right to know what to do when they go out. Also, we order uniforms. They're wearing reflective vests and everything that's coming so that when they're in the community can identify who they are while they're out there. And let me be clear. We are here to be a tool for RPS to help these babies. It is important that the community steps up to help RPS. I myself went to RPS. I dropped out of school in middle school, went into the streets. Most of us are trying to stop that cycle. We want to make sure that the kids have a supportive system inside of the community, not to make some of the same mistakes that we made, but we're also trying to be an accountability tool that RPS can use that's going to knock on that door until you get your child up and get them on that computer.
Thank you so very much for that. And I know where your heart is and your experience, and that you know everyone in the neighborhoods as well. So I sincerely appreciate that. I just want to make sure that Richmond Public Schools and the city of Richmond are connecting. This is a Richmond City program, but in the end, we all are about every child. It shouldn't be separate. It should be equal. And I think that's what you're trying to do. And I appreciate that effort, but I would just look forward to receiving that data and also pretty much what's being done so that we don't step on each other's toes while moving forward. And also to make sure that we're transparent and that our community members, our parents, and our students have a clear understanding who's doing that. You all are like please accept this, we're like the parents and you are like the grandparents. You're the icing on the cake because you're right there. So I appreciate that so much, but I just want to make sure, since it's been less than a month or less than 6 weeks, you haven't really had ample time to get the type of data that I'm looking forward to receiving. So I'm sure Dr. Brown and the community engagement and working together, we'll see that through. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Burke, with this is the people's program. Remember, this is all done and thought of by the people. And I really do appreciate the city for taking a chance on us.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I tell you, Mr. Davis has enough energy to power, a couple cities if necessary. I mean,
Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. One, I didn't know whether to say amen or open up the doors of the church after he got through. But, all things aside, man, I appreciate your spirit, your energy, your heart, and the fact that you show up. Showing up is half the battle. And it's going to take brothers like you getting out here, talking to the cats I see, in the, aren't you supposed to be in school? Why y'all in these streets? And it's going to take brothers like you to make that happen. And so, man, I commend you. I want to know more about what you do and more of how I can help. But I appreciate Mr. Mayor, Mr. Cameras for getting Brother Davis in here to share and to speak with us. Thanks.
And thank you, Mr. Jones. And I just want to say, I have a strong team of community members that are with me. I could never do this work without them. I could never do the work without the vessel of the Office of Community Wealth Building. I could never do this work without the opportunity.
Man, you need to stop. I'm gonna come join you. You need to stop, man. I'm gonna come join you.
Mr. Jones,
I thought the amen was coming.
Hey.
I don't know no places in the state, let alone the country, that are doing this with low-income residents. So we got to give kudos to our administration for the city. We got to give kudos to our RPS team. We got to give kudos to them, because I think a lot of times, even during this pandemic, the city hasn't been getting all the credit it should have been getting when we've been working the whole time. The mayor and Mr. Cameron's been in the housing developments with me during the pandemics, on the ground, talking to the people. So I do want to give a shout out to our city for taking the shot and giving us this space to be great.
Ms. Dorr.
Hi. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this great new initiative. A thought and then a question. One, I do think that there has been some confusion among people understanding the nomenclature. Virtual learning program is getting confused with our virtual program. And so I agree with Ms. Burke. To the extent there's a way to rename it, because I think some people are getting worried that our virtual learning is maybe stopping or starting. And so it has created a little bit of tension. So I would love to find a way to make sure that folks can distinguish between the two. So, if you guys can maybe noodle on that a little bit, that would be helpful. And then my second question is, would love to understand, I'm really grateful to hear that our Office of Community Engagement is partnering with you all. And I was wondering if you could provide a little bit more texture as to what that partnership looks like.
Yes, so every Monday, Dr. Brown gets on the call with us and kind of give us our marching orders for the week. May say, okay, these are some topics we want you all to hit on while you're out there on the ground. Or here, these are some flyers that we need you all to distribute into the community this week. Just like perfect example, she just gave us flyers for the preschool. So what we did was took the preschool flyers and put them through all of the neighborhoods on every door. So it's things like that as well. But then also too, the Dr. Brown's community liaisons are actually showing up in the community to work directly with the people on the ground as well. And we couldn't have delivered all those diapers without RPS's community engagement team helping us to find the resources and then getting them back to the community. And what we do is we find the need, meaning through the data we're collecting, and then we have a Google Drive where Dr. Brown's team could see the data going into the Google Drive in real time, and and show the spreadsheets and all of that stuff too as well. So she can see, and then she dispatches her team to call the houses and stuff like that as well to see what the need is or help them with the tech issues and so on.
Ms. Dorr, it sounds like to me, because our backgrounds are not too dissimilar, where this sounds like some old-fashioned community organizing going on right here.
I like it, yeah.
But just going beyond just community organizing, community supports as well, which they do a really good job at it. Dr. Cosby, did you have some? No, Ms. Cosby, no. Okay.
I'm slow with the mute.
Okay, it's okay.
No, I just wanted to commend this project, commend you, Mr. Cameras, especially Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, I just called you yesterday about something else. So hello again. And I think this type of innovative approach is so very needed. It is my hope that even beyond COVID-19, that it is something that continues. I remember when I first came on the board, well, not when I first, but when actually Mr. Cameras first came to RPS, I remember telling him, look, we want to do something that's like the Harlem Children's Zone, where they went into the community, into our most vulnerable communities, and had this community approach in order to make sure that students were connected to education and connected to opportunities for upward mobility. And we cannot do it in isolation and in silos. It has got to be a community approach because it does take a village, as we very well know. So thank you so much for building and reinforcing our village. And again, I just hope that this can continue beyond COVID into however long forever. So, because this is the way to go, I truly believe, and I'm going to be excited to listen for data points that I know are going to be very positive coming out of this.
A lot of passion right there with Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, we have Mr. Cameras.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Davis for
that. Dr. Newbill?
Yes, but go on, Mr. Cameras. I just couldn't tell if you could hear me. I'll speak after if that's okay.
Okay, Mr. Cameras and Dr. Newbill.
Just briefly, I just want to thank Mr. Davis for your leadership and energy and all the work to get everybody out on the ground. It is a blessing to have lots of hands helping, and even if it's not all perfect at the start, that's fine. We'll continue to figure it out along the way. So just really grateful and looking forward to continuing the partnership. And as Ms. Cosby said, it really does take a village, and as Dr. Jones said, you know, just showing up and having your voice heard and being a part of the solution is so valuable. So thank you so much. Looking forward to continuing the partnership, and grateful to you and your team.
Thank you,
Dr. Newbill.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry my technology is not accommodating with the video. I'd love to see the faces, and certainly would prefer presence, but this is where we are. I just wanted to say to James, congratulations on a job well done. You stood up a project in a fairly short period of time that is what I consider to be a best practice, because it engages residents who are also trusted and known by the community, and who can go knock on the door and say why or where or what do you need, and have a different type of response than if some others did that. The connectivity, I think, is so critical. So certainly in terms of the connection to the educational resources, with the other types of resources that you've referenced that are needed. And so I am looking forward to that continued effort to connect our families across the domains of need, whether it's education or mental health services, or you said eviction mitigation, et cetera. So just want to say congratulations, and that for me, the model, the comprehensive nature of the model, I think is just so critical for our community, given where we are. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you. Look forward to the continued work.
Thank you, Dr. Newbill. Thank you so much, James, and for your work and your efforts. I want to say, brother, get some rest, because we're going to need that energy as we enter 2021 and finish off this school year. But get some rest. Happy holidays, and thank you for everything you do for the city of Richmond and for caring for our babies as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to give a quick shout out to Gilpin Court, Mosby Court, Hillside Court, Fairfield Court, Creighton Court, all of the courts. You know, I want to give a shout out to all of them, Hillside, everywhere. I also want to give a shout out to all of the community connectors that are on this project, standing up day to day and continuing to come. Also to the ambassador program and also community wealth building in the city of Richmond. Thank you all.
You're not only an ambassador, you're a champion. Thank you, James. Thank you, brother. Next, we're going to get an update from the joint construction team. Today we have, I believe John Wack and Dr. Brown might be on the call with us today. I believe that's where we're going. Yes. Not the JCT, an extension of my report. We're going to have John Wack to talk a little bit about the efforts to fund the construction of the 3 new schools. Just wrap that up real quick since we're done with the construction, but just put a bow on it. So, Mr. Wack.
Good afternoon, everyone. If in the future I could not follow Mr. Davis on the agenda, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, you're gonna sound real milquetoast now. Here we go.
So starting with the good news here. So we did borrow the first 90 million of that 150 million for the 3 new schools in October of 2019 at 2.22% interest. At that point in time, we were thinking that may have been the lowest interest rate we've ever attained on 20-year general obligation bonds outside of some Build America bonds that were at 0%. Then this month, we closed on the remaining $60 million. We were able to attain an incredible 1.42% interest on those 20-year general obligation bonds. So relative to the 5% presumed interest rates, we did incredibly better. And essentially are now locked in at about $9 million in annual debt service through 2040. All of the school debt will be paid off in 2041, and that'll be about 5 years earlier than we had planned when this plan was put together. And as we shift towards what we actually have collected in meals taxes, we did collect about $9.3 million in fiscal year 2019 in the first year of that tax increase. With the COVID-19 impacting the final quarter of fiscal year 2020, we were down to about $7.7 million. So between those first 2 years, we did only pay interest on the debt before we had borrowed the $150 million. So without any principal payments, we are now, as of June 30th, 2020, sitting on about $15.8 million in a cash balance. But a little more sobering, in the current fiscal year, we've been collecting about 2/3 month to month what we were in 2019, which might be our last pre-pandemic baseline year. So that would, we're currently projecting about $6.5 million for the year. That would cover the debt service for this year, but that is not enough to cover what will be in 2022 and in future years when we get to that recurring payment of $9 million. So we're currently projecting about $6.8 million for 2022. That's about 70% of the baseline from 2019. So that would require us to start drawing from that reserve. So we'll have to see how long it takes us to dig out of this, get the recovery, to get our restaurants closer to firing on all cylinders. But looking forward to the upcoming years, and are pleased to report that we do plan on retiring that debt 5 years early, and we'll be able hope to grow into those payments.
Well, that's news I like to hear, that we're going to retire the debt 5 years early. Obviously, we want to see our revenues rebound from where they are today because of the pandemic and the economic downturn. Obviously, I'm optimistic that the sun will certainly shine on the city of Richmond in 2021 once we all do our part to get the vaccination, and once we get shots in arms, we can get back to some modicum of normalcy and see some of our revenue streams rebound as well. Mr. Wack, thank you so much for your time. Any questions from Mr. Wack? Okay, I'm going to now ask for Mr. Stone to give the update from the JCT, the Joint Construction Team. Mr. Stone.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next slide, I guess. Next slide. Okay, this is the update of the slide we've been carrying in these meetings for the past couple of years. Hasn't really, no real significant changes to the number. The one thing that is changed is in the middle school, I guess it's the desire of the school board and the RPS administration to fund demolition of the old Elkhart Thompson School on Forest Hill Avenue. So that's estimated to be about 600, give or take 20% at this level of scoping. So that kind of reflect down in the bottom here. We're kind of, back in August, I had expected final cost to be about 146.5 million plus or minus 1%. Bump that up to 147 to reflect that additional added scope of the Elkhart Thompson demolition. Next slide. Okay, so I guess the schools are built. So what are we, I guess, doing now, and what are the remaining upcoming tasks? So the middle school, we've got a handful of punch list items still to go. We're in the process of finalizing negotiation on the cost to install the bipolar ionization system. They're still doing their final cleanup of the schools. We've got some potential change orders that are still being negotiated with the contractor and subcontractors. Starting to scope out and prepare the demolition package for the old Thompson Middle School. And the tennis court servicing, we had some, I guess, issues with the subcontractor that was going to do that work regarding products and compatibility. Basically, we kind of missed the weather window this fall to get that surfacing down. So that's going to carry over to warmer. We need like 45-degree plus temperatures. So that'll be done in the spring. At Cardinal Elementary, we've got just really a small handful of punch list items, a couple interior and a few exterior punch lists. SB Ballard there has received bids for the demolition of the old Green Elementary. They're still doing their evaluation with those and should be presenting them to us probably the week after Christmas or the first week of the new year. And then we'll execute a change order and get going with that demolition work. And we're also preparing for the bipolar ionization at both elementary schools as well. And it's a similar status, Marsh punch list. They have not yet solicited bids to the demolition, but should be doing so here in the next couple weeks. So that's where we're at. Next. So now just real briefly, just run through some the latest pictures from taken over the past couple months. This one and the next one are the, I guess, drone photos, kind of a front and back view of River City Middle. Next. It's a beautiful auditorium at River City. Mr. Mayor, you still want to do your State of the City address from here?
One day we'll have the seats filled.
Okay. Next. Okay. This is one of the, I guess, project-based learning areas in the 6th grade wing. Next. One of the science labs. Next. This is the cafeteria area. Next. It's Cardinal Elementary. Kindergarten area, gym, cafeteria, playground out back, kind of the bus loop area. And finally, Henry L. Marsh Elementary. Okay, that's all I've got to.
Any questions for Mr. Stone? Seeing none, Mr. Stone.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to mute myself, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I got Ms. Lynch and Mr. Young. Mr. Stone. I mean, Ms. Lynch.
I noticed we had quite a bit of change orders. Was that just kind of unforeseen rehab issues, or what were some of the stumbling blocks, I guess, that you ran up against when you're during construction, just so we have some idea of perhaps what to look at in the future?
No, I wouldn't say we've had any abnormal amount. I mean, again, what are you referencing, I guess, is your basis for that statement?
In your previous slide, just some of the items that you had, it just looked like a couple of outstanding items were just change order items that you needed to execute on.
Oh, okay. That so one is the demolition of the 2 elementary schools. We couldn't really fully scope that until we got the students out of the school at the end of last school year. Then we had to get a contractor to come in and do some destructive testing to look for asbestos, lead, other hazardous materials, and then prepare a report that then goes as part of forms the basis of subcontractors knowing what they've got to do in terms of hazardous material abatement in order to bid the work. So that was something we knew from the beginning, you know, was going to have to wait till we got the children out of the schools to do. And the bipolar ionization was an ad based on the pandemic, but I think it'll, you know, once we're through the pandemic, it'll also hopefully pay benefits to just making a healthier school environment when you're dealing with the normal influenza season as well. So, so does that answer your question?
Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Stone. Just a quick question relevant to the chronology for the demo at the former Elkhart Thompson site. Can you provide can you elaborate on what that may look like? And additionally, is there an opportunity when in preparing that bid for package, if it's the will of my colleagues, is there and our friends at the city, is there an opportunity to include in that big bid package a request for more than just sod, planting of sod subsequent the raising and removal, but to also include some trees? A lot of neighbors in the fourth that have rightfully identified an opportunity to plant trees, and though I'm very confident civic community organizations are going to be eager to do that, some folks have inquired if there's an opportunity to actually include that in the bid for the demo with that work.
I think it's definitely an option to do that. If that's the will of RPS, the school board, and the administration to spend money on that, it could certainly be done. As far as, I guess you asked about, the timeline for this, it would probably be January, February, preparing the bid package specs, and then getting it over to the general contractor, Howard Shockey, to solicit pricing. Then we'd have to, iron that detail out, execute a change order to add that to their contract, and then proceed with the work. So it'll probably be late spring, I would guess, before at the earliest, you might see, work going on. And then once they get started, the first thing I got to do is get in and do abatement on hazardous materials, get that out, and then they do the physical demolition of the school, and then do any backfill if there's any basement spaces or anything that leaves holes in the ground. They got to backfill that, and then grade and seed or sod the site, probably seeding, I would guess, but and then that would be the stage, planting trees if that's desired as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Thank you so much for that report. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. 2 years have gone by very quickly.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Now we're going to have a report from the Education and Human Services Committee of the City Council.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on from the schools and the facilities, if I could just, I don't know who to necessarily levy this concern to, but at Cardinal Elementary, and Miss Owen, if you went over there during the election, the only entrance was to the back of the school, and they were driving over basically a sidewalk to get to the back of the school. And I just wanted to make Mr. Cameras aware of that to see if we can get with Ms. Showalter and come up with an option so individuals aren't driving over a sidewalk unless it's meant to be driven over. And so I would just like to make sure we look at that as a polling site to make sure that we have the right flow for individuals, because people were trying to find their way to where it was, and there was a little bit of confusion. And so I just want to make sure we're not tearing up space that's not supposed to be driven upon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Dr. Newbill?
Yes, before we go on, and this probably is not with Mr. Stone, but something I want to put on our radar screen, and I'm sure Reverend Dr. Jones will agree with this. On Monday, we had a grandmother and a mother who talked to us about the loss of a daughter and a granddaughter crossing the street near a school site. And so what I want to make sure that we do is systematically look at, both when we're looking at new construction of our schools, but the safety for our young people in crossing, but also eventually looking at all of our schools and making sure there's safe, safety in terms of our kids being able to get across the street to the school, navigate, whether it's bikes or whatever the case. But that safety measure for our children and our parents is going to be critical, that we make sure that we have safe crossings, we have appropriate signage, all that kind of thing. So just to put that, again, this may not be with this particular effort, but overall, one loss is one loss too many.
I will direct the team over at the Department of Public Works to review not only these new school sites, but the other sites around the city as well.
Exactly. Thank you.
One more, Dr. Jones, one more.
And I'm sorry, but I'm glad Madam President brought that up. Mr. Cameras and Madam Page, the family has a request that would impact Bouchard Middle as far as having a memorial tree planted. They wanted to do it at the site of German School and Jank Road, but it would obstruct, line of sight. And so I'm glad that they understood that piece. But they just, the family's just looking for comfort. They really are. And so anything that we can do to minister to them, to help them out, and to just be compassionate. So, and I don't want to I'm not putting you on the spot to make a formal request here, but Madam Page, if you could give me a call and we could talk through this, and then you can go back to your colleagues and y'all can better decide how we go about doing this. But I just they were in our meeting on Monday evening. And so I just wanted to reach out to everyone. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And yes, we'll talk offline regarding that.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you, Ms. Page. Now we'll move to the Education and Human Services Committee update from City Council. Is Ms. Larson with us tonight? Does anyone from City Council have anything to speak to in terms of the Education and Human Services Committee?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Lynch?
I do not have the benefit of having the slides before me, but
that's okay.
But I can give you a quick update as a member of that committee, and certainly,
please,
no bias, but what I feel is probably one of our most critical committees on council, given the nature of where we are in our city at this moment. And we have so many individuals who are experiencing homelessness, who are facing eviction, who are every day in need of or coming in contact with our human service agencies. The focus of our committee, if you had to sum it up in a theme, is really been to grapple with some of those issues that I just mentioned, homelessness and evictions. What we are seeing in our, particularly relative to our RPS families, is we have a host of families I know in my district and many of your districts that are dealing with these very, very stressful and challenging issues as their resources are stretched very thin. A lot of working families that have had to adjust their work schedules, that have had to kind of juggle and figure out how they're going to pay the bills and keep afloat. And so one of the things I know, Mr. Mayor, we're working with you on is establishing or looking at reestablishing our homeless services continuum and trying to make improvements where we can to adjust in this pandemic environment. So we have had a number of papers dealing with that issue. We've also had a lot of discussion about how our virtual learning has impacted families and making sure that we have, for our working families, that we have adequate childcare and support for them. And so really appreciate, I know, the work of our committee members and our school board members on the call in the mayor's office, who in the beginning of the pandemic school year, rather, worked to open up some facilities and fund some of those programs through the CARES Act dollars. So that has been a primary focus of our committee, and really appreciate the collaboration that we had with school board members in the mayor's office in September to get those programs stood up.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. Any questions for Ms. Lynch? Ms. Page, did you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I have a little delay here. But my question, so I understand this is I'm kind of going back to construction, school construction. So
we'll allow it.
is it possible for us to get a timeline regarding Georgeville, new construction for the new Georgeville?
I don't know if Bob can actually answer that question right now. I know that we do know that the planning is underway. I've already been in at least one meeting already on the planning for George With. That planning is underway. Obviously, as we go through the planning process, we get to the design. We want the community to provide some feedback on what the design will be, what it looks like. And obviously the planning involves the location of the construction moving forward, right? So the team is doing that work at the moment. They'll obviously, I believe, will work through the JCT on next steps in terms of design and where we're going to be needing some feedback from not just the school board, but also from the community at large as well. So obviously, when it comes to getting shovels in the ground, the city's credit capacity will have to open up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And that capacity doesn't seem, will not open until roughly 2024. But when it does, we should be able to hit the ground running with, with the design that a team can go to work with at that time.
Okay, so at the appropriate time, if we can receive, a timeline when we know we'll have community participation, because I know that's critical.
Yeah, and Ms. Page, what I'll do is for the next compact meeting, we'll have an update on that with the WITH project, the concepts, anything of the sort, just to be 100% transparent on where we are and where we need to go. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Page.
And Mr. Mayor, to echo Mrs. Page's, and I believe I asked you this, or have had some discussion about when we would possibly see the construction contract go out for bid. Is that going to be an open procurement? Are we beholden to the same contractors with the other builds, or is it going out for?
We're not beholden to such, but I have to say, Ms. Lynch, we're a ways away from that. Got to have a design before we know what we're constructing. So we're still a ways away, but we're not beholden to any prior contract for any of the other 3 facilities. But I will say that I think the 3 contractors used for the 3 facilities did a fabulous job, and we got 3 beautiful buildings here in the city of Richmond. Okay, we'll now move on to an update from Richmond Public Schools. I believe, Mr. Cameras, you will be providing this update. Is that so?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And
thank you, Mr. Cameras.
I'll be brief given the time. Mostly, I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Mayor, to the council, and most of all to the school board for the collaboration, the partnership, really ever since March 13th when we closed, and certainly this fall and into this winter as we have launched a fully virtual school system, which I do believe has exceeded most folks' expectations. Through everyone's partnership and investment, we've been able to procure and deliver 22,000 Chromebooks, over 6,000 hotspots, close to 3 million meals, and really reinvent what it means to teach. And while, of course, this is less than ideal and we would love to be back in person, I am proud of RPS and the city of Richmond, how we've worked together to put forth a quality educational program amidst a global pandemic. And if I dare say, really be a leader in Central Virginia on a lot of these issues. I am competitive, and so it is heartening to hear from folks around Central Virginia who are looking to Richmond as a leader. And I think that's something that we can all be proud of, from the mayor's office to the council to the school board to most of all our teachers and support staff. And to all of them, I just want to say, with tomorrow being our last day before winter break, to anyone who's watching, thank you so much. We are deeply, deeply grateful to our amazing educators and support staff, to our families, and of course to our students for the way everyone has stepped up, shown each other so much grace. And I do truly believe we managed to reopen with love, which was our objective. And though we will be virtual for the rest of the year, I'm confident that 2021 will be a better year for us all. We still have a lot of work to do. We look forward to hopefully making even more investments with new federal stimulus dollars, hopefully when the Biden administration takes over, potentially some support even sooner than that, based on the news reports that I'm seeing out of Washington tonight. We know we have to continue to invest in mental health supports, as Mr. Davis shared and others have raised. We want to invest in even more academic supports and so many other things to make sure that this is as productive a year as it possibly can be. But again, just filled with gratitude to everyone who has really stepped up on behalf of our kids. Thank you so much.
And can I say, just to add to your points, Mr. Cameras, you may have read in the newspaper, I said it was shameful, the abdication of leadership from the federal government. I may have said it in different words in the newspaper, but nonetheless, it was shameful, the sort of leadership we've received over the course of the last year. Nonetheless, it has been amazing to watch our educators, our teachers, our principals, the staff adapt in this most difficult time. And I'm grateful to them for their hard work right here. It's not easy. And I think a lot of our parents are finding out it's not easy to be an educator, particularly right in the middle of a pandemic. We don't want to get too far in this self-congratulations, but when congratulations are owed, I want to be the one to say, congratulate you and your team for surviving this tough year and being there for our kids, ensuring they don't fall through the cracks. So thank you so much. Grateful.
I appreciate that. And if I may just take a point of privilege in saying thank you to our 4 outgoing school board members. This will be their last Education Compact meeting. So to Ms. Cosby, Dr. Sapini, Mr. Barlow, and of course our current chair, Ms. Owen, we are so grateful for your support and your leadership, particularly over this past year during the pandemic. And we will continue to be in touch and lean on you as resources in the years ahead. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameras. I second that. We second that. We second that. We'll now move into a discussion and update on the emergency childcare and virtual learning support here in 2021. You know, to date, the administration has, I think, we've administered about $2.3 million across 21 partners to stand up an emergency childcare initiative. You know, we're serving about 750 children on a daily basis across the city with a capacity to serve several hundred more. Tonight, we're joined by some partners who are familiar to Richmond Public Schools and also to the city administration. Our friends Damon Jiggets with Peter Paul and Abby Rogers with YMCA. They're going to share a little bit about their programs momentarily. However, I want to make sure I'm clear about what the future holds currently with as we wind down 2020. We're facing a funding cliff. We're facing a funding cliff. You know, we've depended solely on the CARES Act monies to fund this initiative, and without a federal relief bill, the bill that I've been harping on for weeks now, without one of those bills in sight before Congress recesses and before the deadline tomorrow, I fear that we are going to go over that cliff. And so we do have a funding gap that we have to work together as a city to fill. And we're anticipating that cost to be roughly $500,000, roughly $500,000 to continue these programs through the month of February. I think there's a lot of good that has come out of these programs around the city. I've heard a lot of great stories, and also I've heard about the need as well that from our parents in different neighborhoods throughout the city, the need, and that'll provide them the ability to still get to work, but also for their kids to be in a safe place to facilitate their education. We do have with us tonight Abby Rogers and Damon Jiggets. I want to give them an opportunity to say anything if they like to. Ms. Rogers.
Thank you.
And Ms. Rogers, congratulations on your new post with the YMCA of Greater Richmond. You got some big shoes to fill, but I know you can do it. You can fill them in.
Thank you. I do have some big shoes to fill, and but I'm very grateful for the challenge and looking forward to continuing to work with you and the Richmond Public Schools to help support our kids and families. And so there's many years to come for us. And so I appreciate that very much. You said it correctly. I think that this is an important service for families. There are many families making many different types of choices. Some of them are staying home with parents in order to do the virtual learning that is coming out of Richmond Public Schools. Some have done pods where they've come together with other families, and other families just need to have an opportunity to send their child to a childcare space in the same way we saw when this pandemic started for the emergency childcare, when the mayor first called us and said our doctors, our police officers have to have somewhere to send their kids. There's many families in that same position right now that parents have to go to work, and we want their kids to continue to be safe, to continue to be learning and taking advantage of all the opportunities that RPS has put out for them right now. And so these learning centers are an integral part to that for those families who don't have other options. And so we are very happy to be providing 5 sites right now. 2 of them are in partner churches and 3 of them are in schools here. At the YMCA, we have 244 students in the city of Richmond right now. 126 of those are fully subsidized, and many of the others are on some form of financial assistance, but not fully subsidized as we go forward. So we are having a wonderful experience with them coming in the morning, and they come into us. We have some quiet mindfulness time if they get there before the bell starts, but then they're off and running in their classrooms with their teachers, and our staff is there just to help make sure that they connect, help make sure that they're getting to the right classrooms. And then being in a safe environment where, you know, they are focused and helping them focus, as we know that screen time is hard. And so an adult there to try to make sure they do that. But then we also have the ability to, after the school day is over, to still do some of that out of school time activities with them that we would be doing in a normal school year, helping them learn in a different way through different types of activities when they're with us, getting some of those wiggles out. Where the YMCA, we love to have that physical activity with them. And really just coming around them during this time when we know that the mental health issues for students right now, with all of the fear and the isolation that's coming through this pandemic, how we might be able to support them, wrap around them, social emotional work that we're doing with them. And so we're just grateful for the partnership we have with the Richmond Public Schools and allowing us to be in the buildings and being a great partner in making this a successful opportunity for us. We do have a waiting list for students to try to come in right now. We are staffing up as quickly as we can to get back around to get everyone off that waiting list. We have 6 staff coming off of kind of the entry process for us, the onboarding process for us right now. So hopefully we'll be able to move many of those students that are on that waiting list right now. As we come back from Christmas, they'll all have spots to go, but we are still trying to hire because we still have families coming to us all the time. And so that is what we're trying to do through this pandemic. And we appreciate the support from everyone. The funds have been very vital. We are trying to find alternate funds right now too, Mayor Stoney. As you are working through the CARES Act, we're working with the philanthropic community to ensure that this opportunity for kids and families does not go away during this important time as we go. So we appreciate all of you and the work that you're doing in your communities. And we just look forward to continuing to partner through this next semester in the city.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And I want to say, you know, also in addition to Ms. Rogers and Ms. Jigga's efforts, you know, we have a number of other nonprofits and faith organizations as well who've also done their best to fill in the gap for us in this challenging year. One of those nonprofits is Mr. Jigga's nonprofit that is well known in the East End, well known in the city of Richmond. Mr. Jigga's, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. And I just want to commend each and every one of you all, Mr. Cameras, Michelle, and everyone else involved. I want to commend you on the attribute that I think you all lead with in terms of leadership, and that's being servant leaders. And so I want to commend you all with leading with the servant aspect of that first. I think that may be the distinguishing factor between our local leadership and the federal leadership. But we won't get into that. But I do want to thank you all for this opportunity to serve at MLK Middle School. We've been there since late October. Before I get to, you know, a couple of outputs and outcomes, I do want to lead with impact, which is something that is of the utmost importance to me. We could always talk about the numbers of students we're serving, but when we're able to move our families and our children forward in impactful ways, that's the thing that gets me up in the morning and gets me going each and every day. And so I want you all to know that the number 3 is something that is resonating for me right now in this moment. And it's 3 of our parents who have been able to accept full-time employment because their children have somewhere safe to go. All right. And that's because of you all's decision to uplift these facilitated learning centers around town. And so that is, you know, exciting for me in terms of as we're, you know, getting into the holiday spirit, to know that 3 additional parents now have full-time jobs, 2 of them with benefits. And one of them, as a matter of fact, one of those families will be moving into a home that is due to begin construction right behind Peter Paul in the next few weeks. One of our Peter Paul families will be moving into that unit. And they are also, you know, we're able to get some additional training through our partnership with the Office of Community Wealth Building and our Z Life initiative. And it's an employment initiative specifically focused on Generation Z. So that's that 18 to 24 age range. And so really excited about not only what we're able to do for our students, but the fact that we enroll our families in our programming has had all kinds of, you know, kind of ancillary and subsequent, you know, outcomes and impact for us. We currently have about 85 students enrolled in our program. But right now we're only serving about 46, and that's not where we want to be. That's not where any of us want to be. We're in our capacity at MLK is at around 100. That's our target number. But what we've heard from our parents in the last few weeks is that the primary issue prohibiting their children's attendance in our program, and keep in mind, they've enrolled, but they can't get there. They can't get there. And so that's, of course, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, everybody knows the challenges we've been having with transportation for as long as any of us can remember. And so what we've done at Peter Paul is we brought a couple of our bus drivers back online to go and pick up some of these additional kids and get them to our center. And just a brief moment to just say thank you to all of our staff. I don't know if any of them are kind of watching this, but I gloat on them all the time, and they didn't have to do this, but they saw that this was an opportunity to serve in our community, and they were willing to do that in the midst of the risk associated with COVID-19. So I just want to give my team an entire shout out. And with the transportation piece, and I'll stop with this. Mayor Stoney, I serve on the Human Services Cabinet with Reggie, and I have the pleasure of kind of leading the transportation subcommittee, if you will. And over the last year or so, I've been trying to start a transportation service in partnership with the Greater Richmond Out of School Time Alliance, of which Abby and I are a part of, and so many other youth development agencies are a part of this regional alliance. And I'm proud to say that business officially launched yesterday. And in a partnership with the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation, we'll be able to provide free transportation to 150 students beginning in February to designated childcare facilities around town. So we're really excited about that initial launch, but also hope to get more buses on the road as soon as possible. So I would love to talk with the schools and any other partners about how we can partner in providing affordable, safe, and reliable transportation to and from our childcare facilities for years to come. And so really excited about that in terms of addressing that transportation need. But again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to serve at MLK. We hope to get more kids into those seats as quickly as possible and get more of those families supported. We do have quite a few programs such as our dinner and discussions, and we also have our caregiver hangouts throughout the course of the week. This is an opportunity for our parents in the midst of everything that's going on to just really kind of decompress and virtually be amongst some of their peers and of course our family and community engagement staff at Peter Paul. So again, this has been a comprehensive approach to this and a wonderful opportunity to serve alongside each and every one of you all. So thank you so much and happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jiggins. I really appreciate it. I don't want to speak on behalf of the members of the school board and the members of the city council, but what I do believe is that this program, this initiative is very, very important to all of us because we want to create more stories like the one you just spoke of, Mr. Jiggins. With that, Eva, I know Eva's here as well in terms of the facilitation capacity, but also if Mr. Wack, if you're still on the line as well, with the cliff coming closer and closer, and I'm hearing better news out of Washington on another relief package coming to localities all across the country. So let's park that and let's keep our fingers crossed that our leaders in Washington will do their jobs. But what are some options, Mr. Wack, that might be available to the city administration just in case some of these the Washington, D.C. leaders don't live up to their commitment, their pledge? Eva and Mr. Wack still available?
I think we might need to unmute John. Just 1 second, Mayor.
Okay.
while that's happening, if I could just thank Abby and Damon, RBHA, and all the partners. We are very, very grateful for the partnership. Again, it takes a village, and we have a very strong village in Richmond. And as a mentor of mine once said, when all we are is a group of big people helping a group of little people, and when all the big people figure it out, the little people benefit and succeed. So thank you to you guys. Really appreciate your partnership and leadership. And Damon, congrats on the new venture, and that's really exciting about the transportation. I think you hit the nail on the head. That really is a big barrier for a lot of our young people to access the centers that have been set up.
Well, here's what I know. I know that obviously I don't want to say I'm bullish about Congress doing anything, but I do have just a little bit more confident than I was yesterday before, compared to when I spoke to the newspaper. And what I do believe is that if a package is on the way, that means that we can at least secure some spending, hopefully, and it looks like we can possibly front the dollars to keep these centers open, and we would have some federal dollars to help us reimburse those costs back to the city. Obviously, in a pandemic, with the economics being what they are today, times are very tight. They're not just tight in people's households; they're tight also. They're tight also here at the city as well, in terms of revenue that could be available. I know I had some conversations with Dr. Newbill as well, and what I hear from Dr. Newbill, and I think it's the shared sentiment of those on City Council, that we will do everything we can to find a way on turning every stone before we leave. Before we don't leave anywhere. I mean, but the folks over in Washington D.C., they certainly do. They leave and go back to their home places for recess, and we're left holding the bag. And what I don't want is us to close any of these doors. And so, my commitment to the compact here and also to the public is that we're going to unturn every stone and try and find this $500,000 to keep these doors open, because not only do our kids deserve it, but I think our families deserve it too. And I've directed my staff to do so. And it seems like we might be having some technical difficulties to get Mr. Wack back on the line nonetheless. But that's my commitment here. And Dr. Newbill, did you want to say anything to that, speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I've been clear that all of our children, not some. Well, first, let me thank Abby and Damon for the extraordinary work that you've been doing with our young people throughout this really tough time that has certainly made it a lot better for them and their families. Thank you. But these are all of our kids, and this is a critical resource that is needed. And I've stated to you that I am committed to working to secure the necessary funding and looking to all of our partners. I'm not looking at a single entity necessarily, but I'm looking at all of us, city, state, federal, schools, philanthropic, to generate the dollars and to identify the dollars necessary to continue this work. So it is critical. Our kids deserve it. Our families deserve it. And I'm committed to working to that end.
What I will do, Dr. Newbill, I will direct the acting CAO to give me an accounting of any unallocated funds, particularly COVID-19 funds that there may be in city coffers, whether in the executive or legislative branch. And once we have an idea where those are, still keeping fingers crossed that the federal government is going to do their part, we can use any portion of those unallocated funds to invest in keeping those doors open, which I think has to be a priority of the city government.
And I look forward to that discussion. And let me say, I've been looking for dollars too, Mr. Mayor. So you're not alone in this.
I did hear Mr. Wack. Did I hear you via phone?
Yes, I'm off mute, I believe.
Okay, all right.
So
I thought you were being quiet for a reason.
Council may recall, so at the end of the fiscal year, about $547,000 was set aside and assigned for a COVID-19 reserve. So that's in the general fund and could be appropriated. Council also, as part of the 2021 adopted budget, there's $300,000 in the non-departmental budget for that same COVID-19 contingency. So those funds could be made available. Of course, hopeful that there will be further funding from the federal government that would allow us to either spend directly from a new allocation or get reimbursed. For those that may not be aware, when we received our previous allocations, our first one came in late on June 1st, but was actually retroactive to March 1st. So we may have the flexibility to cover January 1st expenditures, January, February expenditures with federal funds, depending on what kind of restrictions they might put on them.
Okay.
That helps.
And well, so, Mr. Mayor, I look forward to the to the follow-up conversation, and certainly, like I said, have been looking for opportunities for resources as well. And so, I think once we gather together, we will be able to chart that path forward resource-wise.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed for tomorrow, Dr. Newbill and my friends and colleagues here. But we will be prepared to act in case the unforeseen happens in Washington, D.C. Okay, is there anything else to come before the compact? Seeing none, I would like to let you all go back to your lives. But I want to say thank you for just working as a team here in 2020. You know, they always say this is a cheesy saying here, but teamwork makes the dream work. And we are certainly in the business of making dreams happen here in the city, particularly for our young people, for our little ones. And thank you for going to bat, not just here in 2020 in a very difficult and challenging year, but also going to bat in all these 4 years that we've been had the great fortune to serve in this capacity as public servants to the city of Richmond. So I'm grateful for the friendships that we've been able to create, but also the dreams that we've been able to fulfill in our role, in our specific roles. And I'm looking forward to another 4 years. Before we get to January 1, though, we have some holidays in between. It's my request that you stay healthy, you stay safe, and you have enjoyable holidays with your families as well, and continue to socially distance and wear your mask, okay? All right. Everybody have a good one. Happy holidays.
Thank you.